Let's compare my black Distress ink pad with my black Memento pad. Both of them are a dye-based ink. The Memento I regularly use with Copics to color Copics, and it's a fabulous ink for that. The Distress I use more for its water reactive properties and sometimes just to stamp a sentiment or an image. I typically don't color with Copics with it, and that's what I'm going to try first here. My Memento is what I use when I want to color with Copics. I can see that the Distress black pad seems to be a lot darker, a lot more black when I'm stamping, but let's see how they hold up to the Copics. Now, typically when I color with Copics, I'll use 3 different shades. I'll go and use the second shade, and there's not really much difference between the first one and the second one, so I'll ditch that one. There's no point in using a color that you can't even see the difference in. So I go in with the light color first, then the dark color, and then I go back over with the dark color. So I'm using quite a bit of Copic ink, and I know with the Memento it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to run, it's not going to bleed, but as I'm using it with the Distress ink, even though it had a few seconds more to dry than the Memento ink, it's definitely bleeding a little bit. It's not nearly as crisp as when I first stamped it. So next I'm going to try a solid stamp with both inks, and then I'm going to let them dry for a few seconds, and I'm going to mist them with water. Now I know my black Distress pad is going to bleed and feather out. It's meant to react with water. I'm not too sure if my Memento pad's going to do that though, so I'm curious to see what happens. Once I've stamped my solid images, and you could do this with line images as well. I just figured with solid ones, there's more ink, you're going to be able to see it a little bit more. I'm going to mist liberally with water, and you can see right away that Distress ink starts to blend and bleed out. The Memento ink, not as much, but once I let it dry for about 30 seconds or sit for about 30 seconds, you can see the Memento ink bleeding, and you actually can see a bit of a pink tone from it, which is interesting. So here we have it, 2 black dye inks that I use often in my craft room, but I do use them for different things, and you can see now why.